Conservation Commission meeting of July 24th, 2023, in the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, 40 South Street, Foxborough, where the meeting is being held in compliance with the Acts of 2021 temporary provisions for the meeting. The meeting is in person and in Zoom, and it's also live on Foxborough Cable Access, channels 22 and 38. Did I cover everything there, Diana? With that, I'll call the meeting to order. Do we have any public comments? If not, I'll go to the minutes. So you're for July 10th?
For the minutes of July 10th, 2023, Bob, Jim, myself, Peter, and Rebecca were in attendance. And I find that the minutes are very good, detailed, and there's only one little word that probably should be changed. On the 16 Hill Street, request for determination, first sentence, homeowners were away on vacation, so Ms. Pierce to them, I think that should be told them.
Yep.
And then she has an.
Also, at the motion to adjourn, I think it got switched. I don't think I made the motion. I don't think I've ever made a motion. I just second them.
Motion was made by Ms. Kelly to adjourn.
Someday I will.
Yeah.
I don't think I have yet, so.
Well, it says here that you made the motion
I
and
know.
Jim made the seconded.
Yeah, so I think it's reversed. That's all.
Yeah, okay. With those changes, motion to accept the minutes for July 10th?
No. I was told by Jane that the end of the minutes from now on has a change in what has to be put in it. The originally, we would have attached documents, which is agenda, then location of other documents, the agency report and documents reviewed.
I copied what the Board of Selectmen did, so that's listed like the Board of Selectmen did it.
Right.
No, I think that's great. The only difference is it needs to be specific with dates, that's all, so that it could be looked up. Because sometimes the same project will have different plans, but they're dated differently. So that's the only suggestion that I had. But no, that was great that you added it to that, because that is going to be very helpful in tracking things down in the future.
Okay, so you want this added to the,
No, it's all there. She put it
Okay.
in there.
okay,
My only comment on that was just to add specifics, like the plan date or whatever, because supposedly anything that is reviewed during the meeting should be listed. And it's just good practice, if nothing else, but that's what the Board of Selectmen are doing.
okay,
So I'm just bringing it to your attention
Okay.
that
All
I
right.
guess the commission has been advised.
Okay.
This is the way it should be done.
all right, thank you. Again, are you ready now to have the minutes approved?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion's been made, do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Minutes have been approved. Being 7:05 PM, we have a continuation of file D 157626 for McCaslin Way. Are you there, sir? Can you hear us?
Oh, here we go. Hello, I'm here.
Okay. Name for the record, please.
My name is George Collins. I'm a registered professional engineer from Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing for McCaslin Way for a continued application. Before we go any further, I'd just like to thank Jane for her assistance, and I had just some plan deficiencies and a little bit too much information on the previous plan, and just want to thank her for her guidance in that regarding that. Would you like me to go back over the plan at this point? I can, if you want me to share the plan, or I wasn't sure.
Just hit the highlights, and I do have a couple of questions about the lawn area that we would like to pass along to the homeowner.
Okay. Would you like me to share my screen?
Sure, that'd be fine.
You folks see the screen at this point?
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, so the property is located on the east side of McCaslin Way, so you get the street here. And Basically, we have an isolated wetland in this location. We have
Okay.
wetland across the
Move the
street.
cursor a little bit slower. It's,
Okay, I'm sorry. So you get a wetland across the street,
okay,
isolated wetland in this location, a wetland in this location, a pond and an associated BVW in this location. There is a stream that flows into this wetland and pond, and then this is attached to the reservoir to the east, the Neponset Reservoir. So a couple things to be aware of. So and let's see here, the 25-foot no activity buffer that's shown in orange in this area here, and then the 100-foot buffer zone
can you follow the cursor?
shown in magenta. So there's this irregular shaped area here that that's an existing subsurface geothermal heating system. So that basically kind of eliminated this whole area as a candidate for placement of the septic system. We did try a test hole in this location, found unsuitable compact soils. So we ended up going in the backyard and found very, very good, well-drained sandy soils in these two test pits. So so basically that's why we ended up putting the septic system where we put it. The red dashed line is the proposed erosion control. I have a straw wattle that I'm proposing. This area here will be the site access. I have it labeled as site access. Basically we're going to go in there. We're going to decommission the existing septic tank and cesspool leaching pit, and then put in a new 2-compartment septic tank to a new pipe and stone leaching field in this location. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the commission or agent may have at this time.
Any questions from the board?
Just a small question. You have an area that you're stockpiling the soil?
Yes, that's just a temporary stockpile area.
Yeah, and that's going to be all inside the silt socks?
Yes, yeah. So you have the red dash line is the work limit and silt sock, and then it's just a temporary stockpile area while they're doing construction is within that.
So you also have here 5 feet unsuitable soil removal limit where the new leaching field is going. Is that going to be stockpiled there, or you take it off site?
No, everything's going to be removed off site. It's just like a temporary stockpile area.
Okay.
They excavate. They'll have a place to stockpile until they can truck it off site. It's just something that I put on all my plans.
Sounds good.
All right. Jane, any comments?
Yes. So there've been a few things that I've been asking for changes, and I went out there a week or two ago, and I noticed that, actually, the wetland delineation form was not included with the delineation, so there were no soils that were inspected. And George said that he could send his delineator out again to do soils and do the forms, and I said it really isn't necessary for the purposes of this filing, because the commission always likes to see new septic systems, and often will only request using a request for determination, but this was a really complicated site, so I'm glad that he filed this. But basically, I have drafted an order of conditions, but I'm not recommending that the delineation be approved, because if it were approved, it's set in stone for 3 years, and I think that the wetlands are probably I think they're larger around the pond and at the very back of the property. It's very soggy soils. We've had a lot of rain, But there were plants like sphagnum moss and such that kind of were saying wetland soils, and I didn't have an auger, so I didn't get a chance to check the soils. But I think it's doesn't really matter that much for this particular filing. I just don't want it set in stone for 3 years.
Okay. So are you going to, or should we recommend that they allow a buffer to go around that pond area?
Yes, I would like
Stop
to
mowing.
recommend that. Now, this has been in the family forever, and that was probably a farm pond, and they've always mown it. And just because it's always been done doesn't mean it's a good thing.
Yeah.
If they allow as much of the buffer around the pond to grow, I think they'd be pleased, because for one thing, it would keep geese from coming on. There were a lot of geese
Yeah.
droppings in
Yep.
the yard. But it also will clean the water and all that sort of stuff. And along the very back there, as much of that as can be left to go natural would be wonderful, because that was really boggy back there. And button bushes are an obligate species, and there was a button bush there. I've never seen one so big. It was right at the very edge
Oh.
of where the lawn was.
Uh-huh.
So there's no doubt that is all wet down where it's
Yeah.
pretty level. So I did not specify restore the buffer zone, but if you'd like, I can add that in I put together a boilerplate. I
Yeah,
did not
okay.
put together the addendum A yet.
Okay. I would like to see a restoration of the buffer.
I think it would be a good thing, and, yeah, good,
So-
okay. I can add that to the attachment A, like
Okay.
boilerplate language.
And if they include high bush blueberries, there's another benefit for themselves. Whoever set the house.
You know, honestly, if they let it,
Birds.
Yeah.
if they let it grow, I think it's going, I saw certain wetland plants that were growing up around the edge there that wanted to. I think it's probably all going to be sweet pepper bush and blueberries and
Yep.
and stuff. There would be invasives probably, but maybe not after all this time. So
So-
it's just a
Yeah, I would,
good thing to do.
so do you need a motion to add that restoration?
Well, you got to close the whole thing first, I would
Yeah,
think.
okay.
And then, like I said, I put together a regular old boilerplate order which references attachment A for any kind of additional stuff, and I've got my usual,
Yep.
boilerplate stuff that I add, but I can put in information about allowing, I don't think they have to do a formal restoration, I think just allowing.
Just stop
as-
mowing.
It's like a
Yeah.
no-cut zone.
Yeah, it'd be nice if they stopped mowing beyond the large bush that's on the plan. I think that would do the trick pretty much, but
Yeah, that's,
If I may, could I just ask something or suggest something?
sure.
If you don't mind, it sounds like, a couple things that I find sometimes, because these people are houses on the market, and then what happens quite often, especially if you have some sort of a complicated restoration plan, it has, sometimes there's a disconnect between the new owner and the current owner, which I always fight hard to try to keep that connection. But one thing that I've done in the past is sometimes just the placement of like a large diameter stones a certain distance off of the wetland, and to delineate that area towards the resource not to be mowed, and just something simple like that. I just find a lot of times it's hard to police this, anything complicated with a new owner. So just throwing that out there. But
That's very true, but I think getting some sort of stones or a boundary that is not cut is a perfect way of doing it. If we were going to be really official about it, we'd ask for bounds to be placed. But I think it's more like if you can encourage the new homeowner to have a buffer and not cut so much lawn.
and
it
I
is
have
a
my,
funny
I don't know
one,
if you
though.
can
What?
Still see this, but I don't know if you can still see my cursor. That I'm thinking in this particular area here is probably the critical location along the pond. Is that what we're thinking?
Exactly. And then actually the very back part, there's one area that abuts the
reservoir?
Well, it's the reservoir, but it's not the reservoir. It's like a big, it's a really nice, it's a beautiful swamp, but,
Yeah.
I mean, they've cut right up to the swamp. So if
Yeah.
that were allowed to have at least a 25-foot from that as well, I think they'd get native plants, and it would help cleanse the water that gets into the pond in the sort of reservoir. They have a very large property. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me throw in my 2 cents.
No, that was a good suggestion. I was trying to figure out how we were going to,
Yeah, I
Push it.
find like, especially with homeowners and other mine, when there's a transfer of property, it's just the simpler the better, because otherwise,
have they been cutting around the edge after you and I spoke?
I mentioned it to him about it, and his position was, "Well, we've been doing that for 60 years." But I have not spoken to him specifically about that, because to be honest with you, I didn't even think we were going to be. I thought I was going to be requesting a continuance this evening. So,
Right.
but
I wanna hold
you know,
him
I
up,
will. I have not spoken to him since you and I spoke, but I will.
Well, tell him he rushed it through so that he could get the septic system in and sell his house, but he should probably try not to cut the really back part. No one probably would even notice if it's
Yeah,
allowed to grow.
yeah.
I'm the homeowner.
I was wondering.
Okay.
That area was created when that pond was
Would you
created.
come, because we're on television and all, could you come up and use the mic, sir?
You and I discussed this too.
Yes, that area was created.
Yeah.
It was paid for and approved by the state. It is agricultural.
Oh, that's right. That was like what the Army Corps used to do. They used to dig ponds.
Oh, okay.
But it still is a pond.
When they dug the pond, that's where they built that flat land.
Right, right, except buffer zones are critical for water quality and such, whether it's man-made or not. I mean, old farm ponds function as vernal pools and stuff these days sometimes if they haven't been managed, I guess you'd say. But it's just to keep your water quality cleaner and such. It's not that difficult. And if you let it grow, it'll just look like a meadow.
Okay. Yeah, we haven't mowed it in the last couple of weeks, so.
Cool, that's excellent.
Good.
Yeah, I think you'd find that the geese wouldn't come up on the yard, that lawn. Is that a pet goose with a hurt leg that was living in there?
No, it's just part of the herd.
Okay, yeah. Well, one of the things about geese is they don't like to go through brush. And so these lawns that go down to water encourages their use.
Encroachment.
Their use and all of the things they leave behind.
Well, they gotta go somewhere to eat, I guess.
I guess,
They've
well,
never bothered us.
Oh.
well, you don't go around barefoot all summer long like I do probably.
Okay.
But good, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
It's a great place, by the way. It's really a beautiful spot.
Anything else? Any comments from the audience? I'll make a motion to close the hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing for 4 McCaslin Way, DEP number 157-626.
Second?
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right. And you
Thank
say
you very
have-
much for your time, and again, thank you, Jane, for your help. And then, would it be possible to have the originals order conditions sent to my office? That way, my office will handle bringing it to the registry of deeds.
I think that's what I put in there. I think it says, usually they'll say mail to, or do they? Is there a place for that? Well, Diana will do that.
All right.
Okay,
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
thank you. Someone want to make a motion to sign an order of conditions for 157-626?
And
as-
to add the addendum?
As we have agreed,
Yeah.
yes.
I will make a motion to, I forgot what I'm making the motion for. Throw me off.
Sign the order of
To
conditions.
sign the order of conditions for 4 McCaslin Way, DEP 157-626 with the changes as discussed.
There is a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right. That's taken care of.
Thank you very much.
Well, they're welcome. Have a good evening.
All right, have a good night.
Diane? Take one, pass it on? I think I got too many there, but,
Is that 29 Baker Street?
yes.
Okay. We have a cease and desist out for 29 Baker Street. Okay.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Bill Lord. I live at 29 Baker Street. Graduated Foxborough High School class of 1997.
And nobody in town knows your mother.
No.
All right. Could you tell us what you're doing there and see what we can do there to
Okay.
straighten up this mess?
Okay. So I decided to remove several trees that were dying and were vine infested in my yard. And in order to do so, I had to enter in from Railroad Ave, which is parallel to Baker Street. And by doing so, I crossed over a wet area, and I pretty much cleared the land where the trees were, because I had a few trees fall at random. I have two small children, and I took it upon myself to remove the trees, and then I had a plan to install a meadow back there, a couple of weeping willows, and a couple other screening bushes. But generally, that's what I did. And then I have a notice saying that I potentially violated the wetlands resource.
Okay. Now, it looks like you've created a second crossing. Is there two crossings on your property?
There's only one.
There's only one.
Okay. The other one is next door, is that? Or
The
is
older
it-
one that's been there for a while, it looks
Yeah.
like? Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure where the property lines were, so that's, okay. Jane, you were out there.
I went out there tonight, and Bill and I were talking about what was done, and, he thought he did his due diligence, and to be fair, the DEP's wetland layers don't show that as a wetland, but it was certainly a wetland, and I was pointing out the wetland species. There's skunk cabbage, there's elderberry, and different kinds of, like there was royal fern, and all these things that are obligate wetland species. He leveled the backyard a bit, so I said, no, that means fill down near the water. And so we talked about fill a little bit. So they did push, they got a little bit overzealous, and they did push it back towards the wetland, and I think probably fill a little, so that's probably going to need to be pulled out. But, he wants to restore it, and we want to encourage people to be good stewards to their property. And he actually introduced me to something I'd never heard of before, which we may want to put at the Lane Learning Center, because it sounds like an interesting concept. It's a hugelkultur,
A what?
right? Hugelkultur?
It's called hugelkultur. I had a friend introduce me to it. It's basically an old German form of permaculture, and you essentially take logs or rotting logs, and you bury them a little bit, and then you cover them with compost and what have you, and then you put some loam on top, and then you can plant regular flowers or garden if you want. And they're tall. They can be as high as 6 feet, and they're basically a sponge for water, so I don't have to water my garden as much. And the reason why I had placed it right there was very close to a wet area, so I would soak up a bunch of water, and I could grow a few things on it. That's pretty much why I did that.
I was doing a little research on it this morning, and of course went down the rabbit hole, but it sounds like a really interesting concept. The gist of it is, it mimics the forest floor, which is constantly rotting and decomposing. So if you put trees, especially some that be rotting already, it gets all sorts of critters and, mushroom
Like in the
activity.
rainforest, they have the nurse logs.
Yes, so it'd be
Yes.
like a nurse log, but covered. And then apparently these things will actually, it's for, it says it's good for soils that are poor, like clay or that kind of thing. So I talked to Carol Lundeen, our Lane Learning Center horticulturist, about it, and I said, "Have you heard of it?" And she says, "Yeah, it can be a good thing." And we were going back and forth a little bit. I said, maybe we should put one at the Lane Learning Center because the soil there is pretty awful. Because it's a way of
But
amending
is
the
it-
soil.
Where would you, well, never mind.
Well, no, the first, what happens is you put it in, you dig a hole and you put the logs in, and then you put the next thing in and
Yeah.
the next thing, and
But you need
let
the
it.
moisture there, though.
Well, you need to water it the first couple of years. Then it starts to work like a sponge and create all kinds of neat stuff. So it's pretty neat because he's worse than me. He looked into this stuff, of the history of the drainage system in there, which is the part of the downtown drainage system, which I'm not really impressed with, but that was long ago when it was put in. So I was saying to him, he wants to have this really neat place for the kids to play with native plants and low maintenance and all that sort of thing. So this Yugal culture, whatever you call them, it makes you should put it on a hillside a little bit, and it builds up, and what it does is it slows down the water that is running down the hill. And it sounds like when he was looking into this years ago, there were all sorts of, what was it, in the 70s, that the people that were living there were all concerned about all the water running off the street and down the side of their house.
Yes, Mildred Wheeler, it's the Wheeler House, I live in the historic district. She complained to the Board of Selectmen that she was having surface runoff and it was running down Baker Street, and you can kind of see where, if you stop by, where the water comes down, and she complained about water in her front and water in the rear. And I think somebody installed a retaining wall to limit the water from coming from the front, and in the rear there's two 12-inch drainage pipes. So, and then in 1976, the house sold to Mark and Beth Forensic, and I think we may have, like what we talked about earlier, where there's a changeover of property, we may have forgot that there was a drainage area to the rear. So 43 years later, I purchased the home, and it's largely unmaintained, and it's been wet, like Jane talked about, for many years, and therefore there's,
Now, is there a pond somewhere back there? Because when I visited there, a duck flew up.
so
ponding.
that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about. And the gentleman had previously mentioned that the Army had put a pond. That was in one of my ideas to install a pond to be like a retention area for water. I just don't know the process. At this point, I don't, I'm going to.
But is there a pond in there?
I mean, the water.
I'm sure there's a temporary one.
The water does collect at the drainage pipes.
Yeah.
And we've had so much rain.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of rain, but the plants,
I was surprised
the
to see a
soils.
duck fly
But
up.
for the
The
ducks
soils
to be
on the
there, there's
plants.
maybe just enough water, standing
Yeah.
water now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it had some really wetland-loving, wet feet-loving plants.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm sure it's been that way for a long time. Probably was part of the natural drainage pattern, and then they probably should have stuck a swale down the side or something, but
Yes,
they didn't.
Yeah, somebody once told me to put a swale down there. There's a spark arrestor ditch on the far side next to the Foxborough company, and I'm pretty close to the reservoir, so I get ducks from time to time that waddle along.
Okay.
So would the idea to be to put the logs in the disturbed area now, the area that you have been, has
So-
been disturbed?
So based on our discussion, I believe I've got to move the logs up the hill and orient them 90 degrees to how they are situated right now, which isn't a big deal, and then start my project up there and pull away from the disturbed area.
So what I discussed with him was what we normally do. We've got the boilerplate this and the boilerplate that. So we have a boilerplate enforcement and restoration order, which I've quickly printed out and filled out, and it has dates and things, and it's basically you do this and that, this and this. In this instance, because the area was leveled out a bit. So there looked like could have been as much as 2 feet of fill, from what I could see. And so basically I told him what he should probably do is get someone who can dig a few holes, see how much was actually deposited back there and where the wetlands begin. Because once you get down to the native soils, you should be able to tell if it's a wetland by the organics, if nothing else. But, that's pretty much step one. He did put up the silt fence that I asked, but of course the whole backyard is sloughing down to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the logs are in the actual wetland, probable wetland area. So I suggested moving them back up a bit and then restoring the area. As far as the pond goes, that sounds like that would be further down the tracks, kind of like a future thought. But for the most part, in the beginning, just like all older homes, he has every variety of invasive species there. So his first course of business will probably be just to keep up after them for a couple of years. I mean, the trees are all being pulled down by vines. I said, it'd probably be a good idea to get out there and cut all the vines at the base that are in the wetland and climbing up the trees in the really beautiful wetland shrubs. There were a lot of elderberries and Joe Pye weed, and it just goes on and on. There were a lot of really nice things, but the native grapes are suffocating everything.
Oh, is it native grapes?
A lot of
not
it's grape.
poison ivy?
No, I didn't see any, but you said you have it.
I removed the poison ivy. I had really thick poison ivy vines before.
Not surprised. So the things he did, he got a little more carried away with than he should have, and he didn't come and talk to us, which I would like people to do because we reward good behavior, or at least I like to think that. But the bottom line is, he wants to make it. He did something that was a little carried away, got a little carried away, and so he should restore it, the back section. But we first need to figure out where the heck the wetlands are. And under the state act, he could have filled 5,000 square feet of wetlands and just replaced it in another place that's close by. But under the town's bylaw, you have a 25-foot no disturb. So they actually have filled in the area at the street so that they could bring the trucks in, which I said, forestry practices are you use, cardboard, corduroy roads or something. You put down planks. So this thing is, it's got stones along the side and fill in the middle. And I think if you were to restore the rest of the area, I wouldn't want to be taking all of that out. So restoration, I think, would qualify for, doing something that shouldn't have been done, but it's done.
No.
I don't think it would do you any good to pull it all out and move it around some more. So have any of you seen it, what it looks like?
Yeah.
Yep, I drove by.
Excellent. So, it's one of those mystery wetlands that are hard to see, and people who don't realize it's a wetland might, I asked him who his tree company was, and he said they're from Bedford. So they don't know the laws in Foxborough.
Yeah.
They're on my bad list. I don't know their name, but they're on my bad list.
Now, a couple things. Majority of the trees that were growing in the back are white ash. White ash likes water at their feet. There's a lot of water coursing down across Baker Street to Railroad Yard, because that whole street area is the beginnings of the watershed for the Bonson River. So a lot of water comes up, a lot of people pump on Baker Street. So that water's always going down through all the houses' yards. And that's probably why they set up the swale down there to try to carry it away. But when you get ash trees, they just love water right there. They could sit in it. Red maples were growing there, and I don't know what else was growing there, but definitely that was a dead giveaway that area has a lot of water.
The ash trees, had they been damaged by the emerald ash borer, do you know?
Not that I am aware of.
No, his ash trees were more, they're getting old, and they rot. was starting to catch up with it.
Well, he said all the vines, which is kind of,
Yeah.
strangling them.
And the majority were completely dead from strangulation.
That happens.
Yeah.
So sometimes when it gets too much water, they can't, it doesn't drain off because the vegetation keeps growing and growing on the ground. They will eventually succumb. So,
Well, it's definitely a wetland back there, and he's interested in restoring it with native plants and possibly someday a pond, except I'm not exactly certain how you go about doing that. That would be a lot more complicated than you probably want to get into. But certainly, if you were to cut back the vines that are in that area, you might end up with more of a pond anyway.
plus the fill you brought in there, it's not going to be good for restoring plants, native plants in that area that's where you cross the loose swale with the culvert. And then you went in a little bit, added some more fill for the trucks to maneuver out. That fill is so compacted and it's not going to grow anything. So you have to find some way of either removing it, reusing it someplace on your property, or you have to mix it up with some type of soil that can give aeration and you can grow something on it. So just a little hint. Because that part is a little bit higher than over to the right,
Seems like that.
where all the logs were piled up. So,
Okay.
So we had a good discussion about this, and he gets it, and he wants it to be a better habitat as well, and he was thinking of putting in a meadow, which I said, well, meadows sound wonderful, but they're not always that easy. And I told him about what they're doing over at London Estates, and they have pretty much of a meadow, mostly grasses with some wildflowers and such, and they mow it once a year so that it'll keep all the shrubs and trees down. But his first job is going to be to get rid of the invasives, because we're still getting rid of invasives at the Lane Learning Center, and it's been, 3-4 years?
Mm-hmm. Yep. They're persistent.
They sure are. They're very successful.
So Jane, the restoration order, this is just your boilerplate one?
That's
that
the
you-
boilerplate that we go by, and then we can flesh it out some more. But it basically says, as you can see, this is attached to the cease and desist. Goal of wetland buffer zone is to reestablish a natural area, so property owners shall present, you know what? Do you have an extra copy up there? You do, right?
Yes.
Let's give him a copy, so that he can look at it while I'm talking about it.
Okay.
It's just boilerplate. It's sort of dates and deadlines and sort of how to. So basically, you got it stabilized.
Okay.
No later than meeting scheduled on, well, today, and you've done it. Property owner shall nominate a qualified wetlands consultant having at least 2 years of experience in delineation and restoration, no later than X date. You probably want to be doing a lot of this work in the fall if you're doing planting work, because I'd say it's too dry this time of year, but it hasn't been. So you pick out a wetlands restoration specialist who know their stuff, and then you get them approved by the commission, because it needs to be someone who knows what they're doing, because they have to be able to figure out what the wetland soils are, how much the fill was, how to pull it back, at least to the wetlands, the edge of the wetlands. And let's see.
Yeah.
Draft wetland resource area restoration plan shall be prepared and approved no later than X date. And it just has all these other requirements on it, what needs to be on the plan, where the resource areas are, impacts to identified resource areas, estimate of fill, and,
Jane, do we have or do you have people that could assist the homeowner in something like this?
Well,
I
he
could see a
mentioned somebody that
contractor-
we know well, that I think would be very good for it.
Okay, but I mean, I can see it for a contractor. I think it's a little, maybe I'm not,
It's a little bit much.
it's a little bit much for a
It is.
homeowner.
Like I said, this is boilerplate that we can
Yeah,
tweak as
okay.
we desire.
But, you know, just reading it scares the daylights, you know, for.
Well, basically, he needs to get someone who knows their stuff.
Yes,
He needs to get someone who
exactly.
can see how much fill there was and where the wetlands actually began and ended, if possible. We'll get a good idea of that. And then can, let's see, what does it say? Restoration plan. Yeah, this does look really complicated, but I think it's written in a certain way because it wasn't mine, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We share with
Okay.
everyone else, so.
Okay, all right.
I mean, you get the general idea. That's kind of what I talked to you about. We want to make it as easy as possible, but we want to make sure it's done as well. And I'm sure you will do it because you seemed interested. And this is largely a boilerplate that was probably shared between other towns.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
we have take an awful lot of workshops and such, and things are written in a certain way so that they will be complied with.
I guess my only thing is, I don't want to make it so complicated that it's
That it
going to
doesn't
say.
get done. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So,
First thing, do you have a plot plan of the 1 acre lot with the house on it?
No,
Or
well,
a site plan? Or-
I mean, I have the GIS plan tax parcel.
Okay,
And
you
I
don't
know where
have
the bound-
something that there was a formal survey of the lot long time ago?
Unfortunately, my deed lot lines are ambiguous.
oh, goody.
Yeah.
From the twin tree to the big rock or something? Okay.
I've talked to a local expert on where they could be. I recommend that I at least give you a very simple but detailed drawing of my restoration plan. And you can tell me when, or I can sign myself up to when it has to be in. And then I can reach out to or use your consultant that you described.
I think the first step has to be where are the wetlands and how much of them were filled. I mean, that's
Okay.
critical. That's number one.
So it's mainly just taking soil samples, right?
Soil samples, I said, like I explained to him, when you do a soil survey, you can use the auger, which I don't have. I found out I've got 2 different augers and none are complete. So I was going to bring it today. But you can just cut a little square plot and then you can see the layers of dirt. And you should be able to see how much fill. You should be able to see the organic materials then in a wetland area. And, yeah, I mean, if the soil's below, a soil scientist will know. So basically, a wetland delineator, reputable wetland delineator probably. And I know one that comes before the board a lot is PAR's
Yeah,
Lauren Gluck.
luck, yeah.
And she is very knowledgeable, and she can sniff them out. She's fast. I can't recommend her, but they do come before us often, and I really like her delineations. And I know she knows her stuff.
When you bought the place, didn't you have to have a plot plan for the bank or anything to see what they're getting financing? I'm just trying to see if there's something there that you can work with right now that has some dimensions on it, so you can lay out this information on it. Maybe make it bigger, but other than assessors. But you have anything else?
No, I don't.
You got away with that? Well, use the assessors.
Yeah.
Make it bigger to a scale that's workable that you
He
can
knows,
easily.
he knows how to play around in a computer, I think. So Mass Map or GIS, that's all based, well, we've got a town GIS. It's based on the assessor maps, which are not necessarily accurate, but it's a good starting point, and it's good as you're going to get.
It was my
With minimal
starting
cost.
point to look for wetlands, and that's why I didn't see it, and I thought I was safe, but.
Yeah, he did tons
but
of
I-
research.
I
I'm
can, I
really-
can make this much more legible and zoomed in and give you a good idea.
Make it
Yeah.
the size of that paper, just your lot, the whole lot.
Fair enough.
Use a tape measure, go out there and you'll measure out eventually where you find where the resources are
Maybe we-
versus the high and dry land.
Maybe we need to talk to the GIS people about using wetland delineations that have been approved by the commission as a starting point. And some towns are thinking and doing that sort of thing, so that, because, I mean, he really did do his, he
That
researched.
sounds good, but if there's no, like looking at the map, and I was even looking on like,
It
there's no
doesn't show
indication,
up.
right, yeah.
Yeah, no.
And there's
hard.
no way of his finding out until I sent him our information from the request for determination. There's just no
And
real
because
good
they didn't go
paper trail.
forward with any of that work, that's why it wasn't easy
Right,
to find,
right,
right?
right. Yeah, they didn't. Basically, you said if they want to subdivide or enter from the rear, there's probably a wetland there, they'll need to file a notice of intent. But there's no trail, and that's what's so
Right.
frustrating.
No.
Yeah, you referenced that in the 2B comment of the meeting minutes. You said that the boundaries of the resource area are not confirmed by this determination.
Right.
Oh, for a request for determination, we never confirm boundaries under a request for determination. That's it's an easy format. It doesn't have a lot of requirements. Any homeowner or even an abutter could do it for a property next door. And you can do hand-drawn maps and the whole bit. And basically, a request for determination is you get a negative, no, you don't, a negative determination, no, you don't need to file a notice of intent, or yes, a positive one, and you need to file a notice of intent. And then basically, they got a positive one, but it doesn't show anywhere. Not even the DEP's website, because I don't believe, do they get them anymore? They don't keep track of the determinations. You do? Okay.
And so based on that information, and like I described earlier with the surface runoff and the way that the terrain, I felt that it was an unmaintained drainage area in the back of the lot. But we're here now, and I know,
Yeah.
and you've educated me that 3 weeks of wet over multiple years can create a wetland.
No, 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks in a row, inundated conditions will create wetland conditions, which is anaerobic conditions where there's no oxygen in the soil. And then the plants have to adapt, so there are plant adaptations, and there's soils change too. But only three continuous weeks out of a year
That's what restoration law
do it.
and have it work.
You want to make it?
I'd like to make a motion here that, I think we pretty much explained everything and what we're trying to do, what you're trying to do, and we appreciate that. And I think we should issue an enforcement restoration order and let Jane fill in the blanks and dates as that's reasonable and what we expect from him underneath a restoration plan. Because this is a regular homeowner, he has a capacity of delaying this. He should get a consultant just to help identify the boundaries and knowing what areas that you did fill in or alter. Let's use the word alter. And let's get on with this so that he can.
Right. Now, the thing with this is there's no place for you guys to sign. It's just a document that
Right.
sets out what you expect and deadlines to reach, and it is not something that is recorded against a deed. It is not an encumbrance on a deed. If it were to progress, if it were more egregious and such, then you probably get the DEP involved and such. We don't want to go there. So it's cooperative effort, if you will.
Yeah. And also, at the same time, should we lift the cease and desist on it so that he can keep that in until
No,
we
I
get
think
a
that he has
restoration
to
plan. Okay.
do the first steps. We
Okay.
want to make sure that there's no silt getting into the wetland, but we also need to know where the wetland is. I mean, that's number one. And if we had asked, if he had come for a request for determination for this, we would have had him file a notice of intent to start with.
Yeah.
But if you require a notice of intent in this point in the game, I'm not saying that you would do it, but he could appeal it. And, you know, it could get tied up in court. It would just be a big pain in the
Yep.
neck. So that's why we followed this direction.
Okay.
Because that's what's been recommended by your professional organization.
All right.
Well, I would also recommend then what the motion I made, that whatever the final document is, worked out between Jane, yourself, and maybe one of us here, that we see it before it's issued to
Okay.
try to get this going.
Sounds reasonable.
I'm thinking probably if you could find someone to come out and look at the site. I don't know how quickly people move or can move these days. Yeah. Just get a name by the next meeting, and then we can go from there. I mean, there's an awful lot of resources at your fingertips online that you can look at too.
And if you're interested in seeing Hugel culture in action, there's one at the Natick Organic Community Farm.
I've actually heard of it,
I have helped maintain one, actually. We have it at work.
and you never told me.
I
never even heard
of it
of
till I
one.
started working there. But,
I am enlightened.
It's pretty cool. They grow like a lot of vegetables on it, and it saves them a lot of watering. So
Interesting.
so you can come and check it out. It's
Thank you.
That's cool. I'm going to go
interesting.
there.
And they're open dusk to dawn, open to the public, so you can stop in any time.
So whereabouts is the darn thing when you go in there? I've been there for years, but I know where the barn used to be. I don't think the barn's there anymore.
There's a new barn there.
Oh, okay.
It's almost done.
Oh, cool.
So if you go in, there's a shared driveway with the school. So just after you turn into the farm, along the driveway to the school, but like between the driveway and the vegetable fields, it's all along there.
Wow.
It's been there a long time, so it doesn't look, it kind of just like.
It sounds like it could be a
Like
really
this time of year,
cool,
it's covered with like squash plants. So
it sounds like it could be a cool thing to introduce
if you
into,
want to come see it, I'm happy to bring you out there.
yeah, nature-based
You
solutions.
can come too if you want.
Thank you.
It's all about education. You know, it's, everybody's going to be held to the same standards, but how are they going to know unless we help?
So we have a motion before the, so I will second David's motion.
All right, any discussion? All in favor?
All right.
Aye. Opposed? All right. We're
So,
making progress.
With the
May I-
first step to find a consultant who can do this stuff. Now, I used to keep a list of consultants that I could give people. We really are very careful not to recommend anybody because we can't do that. But there are people who come before the board that are trusted, and we know that they are well qualified and stuff. So I may be able to dredge some of them up if you aren't able to get this first one to do. whatever.
Understood.
Yeah, just let me know. We'll be in touch.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Jane, we got West Street Dam Project, request for an extension. You wanna,
They're almost finished up, but I would say, you know, extending it's just fine. I was kind of thinking, Chris Gallagher gave me an update about the things that are going on in town today. And one of them was the dam. He said he's almost finished up with the dam. They will be taking the things out of, you know, the equipment and stuff out of the parking area. The restoration or replication area, or whatever you want to call it, it was partly because of the bordering vegetated wetlands that were filled in and partly because of the floodplain that was filled in. And it sounded like a genius idea on my part, but it really didn't turn out to be so genius. It's a little deeper than I expected. It was too dry, and I had these visions that they'd get down to the point of the soils that were adjacent to the skunk cabbage swamp right next to it.
Yep.
And they'd found beautiful black soils and such. No. So now it's been having water in it, which I think is a hazard because the sides are kind of high. So he asked what we could do with that, and he offered to put 12 inches of soil in there, because I had actually asked them to dig it a little deeper, thinking I was so smart. And then they dug just a little bit, and the thing filled up, so it was odd.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if they can get some sort of wetland soils in there,
Where does one get the wetland soils?
well, that's the problem. I was hoping they would find them. I'm sure that they probably have some somewhere, but I'm not certain. So,
I would say over, maybe behind the old dump off of,
But if it's wetland, you're not supposed to be digging it, right? I mean, kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul.
I remember reading somewhere that there are certified something or other soils that you can get. Basically, it would need to be something that was organic.
No.
And
Well,
they were
what
going to
I'm
be
thinking about
planting.
is when the leaf disposal was on Elm Street, when they closed that down, they hauled all of that compost stuff and dumped it behind the old landfill.
Oh, goody.
Oh.
Well, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but
But-
wouldn't that be,
If it's not in the wetlands, and they just dump it behind the landfill.
I don't
Or
know.
use it on the landfill.
I don't know. If it's got nothing but weed seeds and stuff, that's not good. If we had some real compost, if those compost
well, that was.
windrows are actually maintained,
Composted leaves and everything that have been probably 10-plus years old.
Yep.
Sitting at the leaf dump right now.
Yeah.
Buried underneath. They've taken some off the top in the front, but you get some stuff in there that's really old.
Yeah,
yeah, if it's been cooked, there won't be seeds, and that would be good.
Yeah.
And I think that they were going to put in some shrubs, but I was sort of thinking that I might just go and put some
yeah, maybe from,
some snips
where-
and things in there.
Dave, you mean where Tree Tech is now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Go down there. and
The
look.
bottom line is, though, it needs to have been cooked, because if it
Well,
has.
you go look at the base of that, it's been cooked,
Has it-
yeah.
Can we specify use the base of the compost piles?
Why not?
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
wetland area. It's all part of the old gravel area that was
Yeah.
used for the dump.
Well, it's supposed to be
it's-
maintained as compost, you know.
Well, it's been maintained as compost, but you keep it up much longer, it'll become cold. It's how much pressure and weight's been on it, so.
That would be.
Well, that would be something, I mean, if they could do something like that, because if you get something in with a lot of weed seeds and we end up with nothing but Phragmites and
Yeah, no, this is.
knotweed, that wouldn't be
Are
good.
you talking about off of Elm Street, or are you talking about with the new one where?
Well,
Tree Tech is?
the
new
new
one.
one where Tree Tech is there.
He
is-
started with the one.
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
other.
yeah, okay.
So, yeah, I think that if that were done, it would be a good thing, but
Yeah.
it's not quite gelled yet. So they do need an extension.
Okay, all right.
And if they are going to take the stuff out of the, that they're stockpiling in there and stuff, that would be lovely.
But you could maybe check that, and then if you think it's, will work, you can suggest that Chris go down there.
Well,
with-
he may know. He may know of a source.
Yeah, okay,
Because, in theory, what you're supposed to do when you get rid of wetlands soils or you
Yeah.
fill them, you're supposed to dig some stuff out and put it someplace. So I don't know if he puts.
He hems and haws, we say, hey, we, the commission pointed to this spot over here, and maybe go ask Andy Felix. if,
There you go. There you go. All right. So I've sent him an update of
okay.
all
so
of the
you-
orders of conditions and blah, 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 all the information, because I was looking at it to check to make sure everything was complied with. So I just sent him all that stuff and said,
Okay,
sure,
okay. Do you have
Yes.
sign page?
it's around there somewhere.
Make a motion that we extend the order of conditions for West Street Dam Project DEP number 157-594.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Hi.
I,
Opposed? None? Hillside Avenue. Anybody get down there? Besides me?
I did not, except I've been keeping my eye on that spot for a long time because it looks like the kind of place I'd want to be in. But we have conservation land right next door. And it looks to me, there was quite the history on this thing. It looks to me like the lots that they reference was from a 1920 plan. So they basically have 3 lots that are combined into one. They're calling it 6 and 8, but it should actually just be 1 lot. The assessors show it as 2, I believe. So it was amended, the order of conditions was issued for a couple lots that they had to combine, and then they wanted to put in a septic system, which is why they had to combine the lots to meet the frontage requirements and such. And it was amended, and I think that the last outstanding item the only thing I could find in the file was that it hadn't been stabilized yet with loam and grass. Well, if it's not stabilized now, it's never going to be.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So that's what I thought. So at this point, it's almost it's just administrative in nature, I think, because it was from so long ago.
So you think the lot is going to be sold? Is that the reason why it's?
I think I heard rumblings of that somewhere. I'm not sure.
Well, why would they be asking for?
Right.
Yeah.
It's an encumbrance on their deed.
Yeah.
So, because orders are recorded against the deed, and in order to sell a property or get a mortgage or whatever, you want to make sure that you don't have any encumbrances.
Okay.
And it was back then, the order said nothing really as far as protect this, protect that.
When was that order, the original order?
Did I bring it? It was kind of fun to look at. The original order, it was amended in 1993. The original order was in 1986.
86, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was kind of a fun puzzle for me because I'm a geek. And because I wanted to see what the bounds were, because the commission owns the property right next door.
I don't know if you'll find bounds out there now.
It looked like it looked like they were supposed to place bounds.
I mean, the land just.
I know. But I want to make sure that there are no encroachments onto it and such, which I kind of drive by there every so often and I go, I wonder if that's encroaching, and I should look it up, and I hadn't.
If I recall correctly, there's a number of lots there, and there were some buildings on, when they started doing the survey, and buildings on my property and type of thing, so it was very.
Yeah, they had to rearrange a couple lines.
Yes.
At one point.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a camp road.
Oh, yes. And it's still a camp road.
It's a great road, I love it. I'd love to live in a place like that.
So do you have that?
Yeah, I drafted that as well.
Okay.
Rebecca.
So I'll make a motion to sign the certificate of compliance for 6 to 8 Hillside Avenue, DEP number 157-110.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None?
This was the plan. It wasn't from, when they said lots 30, 31, and 32, or whatever it was, I assumed it was from the Reservoir Estates, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was from Lakeside in 1926? 1921. Drive me crazy. Ridge Road is the same way. Almost.
Yeah.
Used to be.
And then you have Camp Road, but that's, we keep
Yeah.
on going on and on.
Yeah.
Anything else? besides Ms. Tracy? Would you, after hearing all of this,
Yeah.
are you,
No, I'm gonna leave. No.
sometimes I wouldn't blame you. You want to come on up?
Okay.
Do you have your list of important questions?
Yes.
boy.
Oh, good.
Oh, boy.
We have
As
to,
opposed
we
to important?
we try to treat everyone equally, so we ask the same question,
Okay.
basic questions. So I'm going to let Rebecca start.
Oh, okay. So, welcome.
Thank you.
So the first question, why are you interested in becoming a Conservation Commission member?
What you've been doing and what I've known about you through the years, it's exciting. It's fascinating to me. So much so that I joined the Neponset Reservoir Committee, as you know, and spent 6 years learning about water conservation. And Rick Lewis is amazing because of the hydrogeology background. So I think I know a little bit more about phosphorus and cadmium than I care to.
Did you mention that you live on the reservoir?
Oh, I live on the reservoir.
I just checked Ridge Road. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Like,
Like, oh, Ridge Road. Yeah, so through that, and especially ever since I did a presentation for the town selectmen, and I was proposing that there was an opportunity for us to actually partner with Schneider Electric and to clean the reservoir up. And through that and people getting to know me through the years, I've been helping with education. Jane keeps mentioning education, and it's really all about that. That really is the key. And I've been helping folks with things like climate lawns, helping them to understand that, and then also, wildlife and the pollinators have been able to get a lot of attention, through the years. So anyway, so Friday, I have an exciting day, so you can all think about me. I'm graduating from, I'm going to be a climate fellow. I'm graduating on Friday. And what does that mean? That means I just am finishing this week of 12 weeks of an intensive type of program, not necessarily deep dives, but learning all there is to know about best practice leadership and organizations and just best practices in general and what's going on in the climate space. One of the things that they recommended that we do, there's 300 of us in this cohort. I'm in cohort 3. There's roughly 300 in each of these. And I was selected from thousands of candidates, global candidates to do this. And you probably could hear me from Ridge Road screaming when I did get selected. It was a big deal. But a lot of it had to do with just education. That's what I do for a career. I do leadership development and learning, helping executives and also folks throughout the organization up and down the charts to learn and grow. And it's just something that that I do. I was interviewing, and then they said, join us, we need you. And so, and again, 12 weeks, and every time they mentioned conservation, and you said it, I heard it, nature-based solutions. I heard that. Permaculture. I actually understood a couple things. I felt like I was watching a guest panel from one of the weeks. and it was kind of nice to listen just in the last hour. But anyway, one of the things that they were recommending that we do is get involved with the communities, because that's where the real work happens. And one of the major data points that I listened to and I paid attention to was, and you all may be shocked at this as well, 92% of people actually believe that there's something going on with the climate. 92%. 60% of those folks are concerned and anxious and want to do something, but they don't know what, okay? And then there's the 2%, and this is where the gap is. There's the 2% who make climate a priority. We're in this room, we're all 2%. You're all working on the conservation, trees, everything. And then I signed up for this crazy program, went through 12 weeks. I'm the 2% as well. And I want to use my education background, and I want to work with all of you, learn from all of you, and help folks even in a more formal way to educate them. Your site, I tell this to Jane when I talk to her, it's got wonderful resources on there. Take those resources and then help the folks more formally learn. So the buffer zones is a big deal. Some of my neighbors don't know what a buffer zone is, and they're on the reservoir. Okay, and that's not surprising, but when folks ask, I help them. So, does that help?
Yes.
Just a little bit.
I feel like you have sort of answered this question
Okay.
with your first question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because maybe there's something more specific. But why do you think you'd be the most qualified candidate? Again, clearly you've already provided some of that, but is there anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, thank you. So I'd be able to help with navigating what global experts feel are new ways of helping with conservation and the environment. And when I talk about education, we know that climate has become a little bit political. And so when I'm talking about education, I don't mean in your face, like climate, that easing people into things and just helping them and meeting them where they're at. So, and I feel like I have a really good background now with the last 12 weeks. It's taken down my own personal anxiety. Gloom and doom, it's not about that. We can do this, and it's collaborating, and it's getting the communities ready and prepared and educated. So,
I just have to poke something in here. Did you see Chronicles Into the Woods?
you sent that out, and I didn't have a chance to see that.
Awesome.
It sounded great.
Yeah, it was very inspirational, and it said that, it's not gloom and doom. This is our perfect opportunity to turn things around.
Yeah, it really, it's, I mean.
It was nice, because I'm tired of the gloom and doom.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All right. The next question, what have you done to prepare for this meeting?
Putting my speaking points together for, I guess I want to really promote education. I really think that's the key to the success of all of this. And then just putting all my thoughts together. What did I take in the last 12 weeks? What did I take in the last 6 years helping the Neponset Reservoir Committee? And it's really all about opportunity. And again, the last 6 years, and then also this program, it's really helped take down my own personal concerns, and knowing that we can do this. We just all have to collaborate in the communities, and what you do is really important work, and I'd like to be part of it. So.
All right. The last two, do you want me to keep going?
Sure. Yeah.
The last two questions are a little easier.
Okay.
So we rely heavily on emails and technology for communication. So do you regularly check your emails?
Oh, yes, I have to. Yeah. Thank you that's a good question. That's a really good question.
And also, would you be willing to take and have time to take courses for
Definitely.
education?
Definitely.
with the MAAC.
Yes, definitely. I would
Sounds
love
like-
that,
The
actually.
town pays for it.
Even better, yes.
Exactly.
Any questions from the board? Comments?
You had asked one more question at the end
I
about.
did, although I feel I have a better sense this time, but I'll ask it.
Well, I thought that was an
To
excellent
keep it the
question.
same way. I just was wondering if there's like a specific sort of issue that is most important to you when it comes to conservation.
Yeah, you said an environmental cause.
Yes.
I think we know it. But, yeah, it was a great question.
Thanks.
It's, okay, I go to climate disaster sites to save animals. So I've been to 4 hurricane sites, I've seen the aftermath. And I'm also FEMA trained for wildfire, so I'm probably going to see my first wildfire. So as far as the animals, it's probably the wildlife, and usually I can use that even with climate deniers. I can use animals. Everybody loves it, but most people love animals. Anyway, I can help educate them even without even mentioning the word climate or the environment or sustainability or anything
cool.
that's 3 or 4 syllable words.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any,
And I did want to thank everybody for the opportunity to do this. I'm pretty excited.
thank you. Thank you.
No, we don't want anyone so excited.
No, okay.
And
all
it's
right.
really nice to hear the positive feedback,
Yes.
too, isn't it?
I don't know, when I heard permaculture, I'm, oh, boy.
Well, that was his words.
I know, that's.
He's an
we had-
interesting
He's
guy.
a
He's
panelist.
the exception. The people who come before us.
It's true.
He's the exception. That's not, it's usually
Oh, he was?
people
Yes.
the opposite way, like
Oh,
people who want to
okay.
build, or people who are expanding building,
No,
or
I get
people who
it.
are shoehorning homes where they don't belong.
Yeah.
That's a lot of what we see.
Yeah, but we're very charming anyway.
You are, you are. Well, I
Speak
did
for
have-
yourself, Jane.
One of the topics was buildings, cities, and adaptation, and that's where we can all
Big time.
work on
Big time.
education as well.
Yeah, the heat islands really blows my mind.
Yes. Oh,
With
it
all the
did,
impervious
Jane.
surfaces and
Oh.
lack of trees, the temperature, I mean, all you have to do is go downtown or something and stand out on the pavement and feel how hot it is, and then go under a large, old tree, and it just shoots down.
It was, oh,
Yep.
God, it was terrible.
It's fascinating, though, really. I mean, a lot of the stuff is not really intuitive.
Right, and then when you start telling people like, oh, well, what can I do?
Oh, yeah, that makes
I don't want to
sense.
take down, the trees are actually doing something to take carbon out of the, and the carbon's, I mean,
And
why are we
cooling the air
breathing
and giving
smoke?
us air,
Yeah.
giving us something to breathe.
Yeah.
That's right, that's
Magic.
right. So it just, common language and nothing complex.
Have you read the Doug Tallamy books?
Have I what?
Have you read the Doug Tallamy books?
No.
Nature's Best Hope.
Oh,
He is an entomologist, bug guy, who is big into the bugs being the bottom of the whole food chain. Without these horrible bugs that we're trying to kill left, right, and center, we would not be able to survive. It's really cool.
I saved a bug today. He was drowning in this, and I put him on, yeah. That wasn't one of your questions, was it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Just good karma.
Good karma is right. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you all very
Okay.
much, thank you.
Two excellent candidates.
Hmm?
Two excellent candidates.
Two excellent candidates.
Indeed.
Each with
Feeling the
different.
imposter syndrome a little bit down here.
What's that?
I'm feeling a bit of the imposter syndrome down here.
No, no.
No, 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 definitely not. Any comments?
Well, you know, land use law is important, but so is climate and education. And she
Yeah.
was really saying all the buzzwords. And it's all about educating the public about why. I mean, we do these things for a reason. We know that's based on science, and we know the laws have gotten more difficult, but it's for a reason. And, yeah,
It's tough. They both have strengths.
Very good
They're
strengths.
Two very different strengths.
Maybe I'll resign and let the two of them come on.
How about if you're chairman no, you are commissioner emeritus. They did that when I was in Wellesley, and I worked in Wellesley. They had a
That
long
sounds like
time
all the
commissioner.
work and none of the real fun part.
What's that?
That just sounds like a lot of work and not really getting
No,
the
it's
credit for it.
it's no work. You just do what you want to do because you're an honorable member kind of thing.
I've got a little bit longer to go yet.
Yes, you do.
So,
Plus we
It
gotta
wouldn't
find
be
a
the
piece of land
same.
And name it after you.
yeah.
Do we need to talk about the boat ramp?
Yeah, something on that.
Well, we
too.
also need to make a decision.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's something you do in public.
I think we have
I mean,
to.
we're on TV right now, so. is
Yeah,
this-
you are.
We,
I'm assuming.
yeah.
I can't remember if you did it in public when I was, I feel,
Well,
I don't know
we
if I
sent
would have
you out
watched
and
or
we
I would have just
voted on
left.
you.
Yeah.
We probably
It was
weren't
on
even,
Zoom.
Yeah.
we probably weren't even, how long have you been on the board?
2 years, I was still, the meetings were Zoom.
Oh, they were.
When I was actually on, I think I came to like, my inaugural meeting was like also the return to this room,
Oh, June 1st, probably.
something like that.
June 1st, 2020.
So,
And do we need input from,
I was going to say, because they're not all of us here.
That's true. We probably
Yeah,
should.
yeah.
but,
But
okay,
are you
when,
voting?
when
You're
did
not
the
really-
selectmen meet again?
August 15th?
Now, do we meet before,
Yeah, you do,
I
right?
think we meet,
August 7th.
so do we make that, tell the other two guys that they need to make the meeting?
yeah,
And yes, and ask them to watch the video.
yeah,
And maybe we should, or you should
Yeah.
rewatch it as well.
and rewatch Tanya's,
yep.
yeah.
Because they both have so many
Yeah, both of them
unbelievable
are excellent.
qualifications,
Yes.
yeah. I wonder if you could recommend one to the Board of Selectmen with the second one as a backup in case someone leaves. Then not have
So
to
we'd
go
have to
through it
start the whole
again.
process over again.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
because you can't have an associate member, unfortunately, and that would be
Yeah.
perfect.
yeah.
I mean, the
Why
planning
can't
board
you
does
have
that.
associate member?
What's that?
Why can't you have this?
There's some reason, I can't remember, I think
Seems like
it's,
this would be a good commission for something like that, because
It'd
there's
be
is a lot
great.
of learning, and then they could learn it all.
I wonder if there's
Some
any way that
commissions
if we didn't call it an official associate member, if we just said, would you please attend the meetings and,
Well, basically, that's what they do. They can attend the meetings, they can be
well, anyone
part of
can.
any research. or
Discussion,
that,
I mean,
But you can't
yes.
vote. You can't be part of the vote. The commissions that
Well,
have
also,
the
there's
laws.
only 7. 7 is the number.
Yeah.
Right, but you can have associates. There are other commissions that have.
You cannot, no, I believe that you can't, like the planning board can, because that would be a perfect solution. Maybe we should figure that out.
Yeah,
Because I remember
okay.
when I was on them, we had associates.
How long
Usually
ago?
they had, when I was down in North.
They've gotten a whole lot more picky.
Yeah.
Everything is like dot your i's twice and cross your t's
Okay.
3
A
times.
lot of times
So-
associates help with outdoor work,
Yeah.
so.
Okay, well, let's send an email out to the missing members and have them view this interview and review the Tanya's interview, and then we will vote at our next meeting.
That would give us time, that would give you time to make your recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and they're the ones who appoint anyway.
Yeah. And then I will take that recommendation to the Board of Selectmen. So.
Cool.
Do want to mention one thing, everybody get their emails about ethics training that we have to take. I'm not objecting to it, I think everyone should take it, and unfortunately, I would think that we should start at the Supreme Court and Congress, but it doesn't.
Oh, yeah.
We have a limit of, last time I looked, $50 gifts.
Yep.
Okay, certain Supreme Court justices get thousands and thousands, but nevertheless. Do we have anything on the boat ramp that we wanted to discuss?
Well, like I said, Chris just sent something today to
Okay.
me, and I forwarded it to Rich because he knows the background, and I also had a background about all of the goings-on back and forth with, maintenance this, rocks that, and I sent that to Chris as well, because I don't even remember anymore. I mean, there are a couple conflicting
Stories,
and this has always been, I found something from 2002
Oh.
that Dave Reich had written to the Board of Selectmen about the issues down at the Edwards boat ramp, and the, rocks should be put up, and it's a problem area, and so it's not like it's brand new.
Yeah.
I think that your intention was to make it so that john boats and kayaks and canoes could get
Yeah.
through, but nothing larger. For one thing, it would
It's
ruin
too
the
shallow.
infrastructure probably.
Well, it's very shallow there anyway, in order to launch a
Well,
larger boat.
supposedly they can. But when I brought it up to during the department head meeting, and a representative from fire and police were there, and I don't remember if it was the chiefs or not, but I said, and this was around the time that Warren Heaton had passed, and Heaton was uncertain.
Yeah.
And I said, is this an issue? The commission is concerned about there being emergency access. And at that time, they said there's no problem. They can go to Fish and Game on, Neponset Heights? I've
Yeah.
heard that's shallow too, but apparently that's where they can go.
Oh.
Okay.
It's Neponset Heights.
No, I know
that doesn't
exactly
look
where it
like-
is. No, I always thought those guys put in their boats, they always went to Heaton's. Because when they were,
Because they were too shallow?
when we had the spill and they had to lower the level, they were screaming and yelling because they couldn't get their boats in, because they always went to Heaton's to put it in, and then they would drive it down and they would dock it over by the Fish and Game.
Well, there you go. I have no idea. So I sent the history of discussions to Chris and to Rich, and hopefully Rich can decipher it and then say this is what we need to do. And also, I guess the NRRC, I think through Rich, has asked that DPW add sand or something to the parking area, and Chris said, that's all well and good, but it keeps washing away. What about if we put lawn there or something? I wonder if they could put lawn, because it's a grid, isn't it? And then the stuff goes into it, the sand and such.
That's what's there, on the parking lot, that's what's there.
I said, whatever you think. I'm no expert. And hopefully Rich will weigh in, and if he doesn't, maybe I can ask Rick Lewis or someone.
Yeah.
Because I know that they're anxious to get that, to keep it up and all, but
Yeah.
the dilemma of the rocks.
Okay. All right, anything else?
I can't think of anything.
Make a motion to adjourn?
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Right.
Opposed? None? Thank you, one and all.
Thank you.
You growing basil?
Am I growing basil?
Yeah.
Not currently.
You okay?
Want some?
I would love some. Thank you.
Doing too much?
We're growing too much.
You grow lots of berries, right?
5 gallons so far.
So, you must net them?
I use
that's
tobacco.
tough.
15,000 steps.
Tobacco. Interesting. That's gonna save my sanity because I only have one bush.
That's tough. We just
Cheese cloth.
replaced all of our, the top
That
of the
works.
deck.
Yeah, okay. Because, like